If you don't allow we Biafrans to go, that zoological republic called Nigeria will be a worse place than Somalia. And today it is happening. And if you have not applied for your Somalian visa, please try and do so. Should I say Somali visa? Try and do so as quickly as possible, because the zoo is on the path of destruction. And there is nothing man can do to reverse it. Mark today's date and what I'm telling you. Nigeria will be destroyed beyond.
Who is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Kanu was born the 25th of September 1967 in Isiama Afara Ukwu, Umuaria, Abia State, within the claimed territory of the Republic of Biafra a few months after it had declared independence from Nigeria. His father, Israel Okwu Kanu, J.P., and his mother, Ugoise Nen Kanu, were Nigerian traditional monarchs. He attended Library Avenue Primary School and went to Government College Umuaria for his secondary education. He studied at University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and moved to the UK before graduating. Kanu began his activism for the freedom of Biafra as a Radio Biafra director and anchor of Biafra Awareness under Ralph Uwazuruig, leader of the movement for the actualization of sovereign state of Biafra, MASAB, who said while in a meeting in Kaduna, Nigeria on June 12, 2014, that he handed over Radio Biafra to Nnamdi Kanu, leader of IPOB, but Kanu disappointed him. Radio Biafra, however, was established by the defunct Biafran government in 1967 with the aim of championing the Biafran cause. Kanu was a relatively obscure figure until 2009 when he started Radio Biafra, a station that called for an independent state for the Igbo people and broadcast to Nigeria from London. In 2014, he founded IPOB. On the 5th of September 2015, Nnamdi Kanu was a guest speaker at the World Igbo Congress, which was held in Los Angeles, where he told his audience, "We need guns and we need bullets." On the 18th of October 2015, it was reported that Kanu had been arrested in Lagos State by Nigeria's secret police, the Department of State Services, DSS. Kanu had told his solicitors that on the 14th of October 2015, he was arrested by the agents of the federal government of Nigeria, the State Security Service, SSS, in his hotel room at the Golden Tulip Essential Hotel Ikeja, Lagos State. The solicitors in a press briefing said, between the 14th and the 17th of October 2015 their client's whereabouts were unknown until the 18th of October 2015, when the press media broke the news of his arrest and detention by the SSS in Abuja. The news of the arrest of Kanu generated protests across Delta State, Enugu State, Rivers State, Cross River State, Abia State, Imo State, Akwa Ibom State, Bayelsa State, and Anambra State. On the 19th of October 2015, it was reported that Nnamdi Kanu had been granted bail after a secret arraignment at Magistrate Court, Wuse 11. However, the bail seemed controversial, and there were claims the DSS announced the bail only to calm the angry people of Biafra. The Magistrate Court one sitting in Abuja on the 18th of November 2015 ordered the Department of State Services, DSS, to produce Kanu at the court on the 23rd of November 2015. However, it was reported the Department of State Services, DSS, obtained a secret court order to detain Nnamdi Kanu. Kanu's lawyer, Vincent Obeta, in an interview said whilst in court, the prosecutor gave him a document containing a court order permitting the Department of State Services, DSS, to detain Kanu for the next 3 months to conclude what they said was an investigation of terrorism and terrorism financing. Kanu was finally arraigned on the 23rd of November 2015 in an Abuja magistrate court for the first time for charges of criminal conspiracy, intimidation, and membership of an illegal organization by Nigeria's Department of State Services, DSS. The charges violate Section 97, 97B and 397 of Nigeria's Penal Code. Chief Magistrate S. Usman had, at the last adjourned date, berated the Department of State Services, DSS, over its failure to produce Kanu in court on the 2 consecutive times the matter came up before the court. Meanwhile, Kanu supporters stormed Nigeria's capital city of Abuja in luxury buses on a peaceful protest for their leader who was arraigned by the federal government before the WU Zone 2 Magistrate Court, Abuja on the 23rd of November 2015. Pro-Biafra protesters with placards sang and danced outside the court premises whilst the hearing proceeded. Protesters wore T-shirts and caps with inscriptions like "Biafra now or never," "Buhari release Kanu for us," "On Biafra we stand." More protests by IPOB members numbering over 15,000 grounded vehicular movements in the southeastern key economic city of Onitsha concurrently. It was the same with over 20,000 protesters in Aba, Abia State on the same day, 34. Kanu, through his counsel, filed an application asking the federal authorities to transfer him from the custody of the Department of State Services, DSS, to prison. His lawyer, Obeta, insisted that transferring his client to prison would enable him to have easy access to his legal team. Whilst in court, the Department of State Services, DSS, requested the WU Zone 2 Senior Magistrates Court to discontinue the trial of Nnamdi Kanu under Section 108(1) of Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. Idakwo further said the Department of State Services, DSS, had obtained an order from the Federal High Court, Abuja, dated the 10th of November, to detain the accused in its custody for 90 days. However, Kanu's lawyer Obeta objected to the continued detention of his client. Obeta prayed the court not to discontinue the case because the prosecution did not present any information from the Attorney General of Nigeria Federation, who had the authority to approve such. Obeta also told the court that the DSS violated the order of the court which granted bail that was perfected but not granted, adding that the accused had been in Department of State Services, DSS, custody since he was arrested. The court's magistrate, Usman Shuibu, after listening to both counsels, adjourned the matter until the 1st of December 2015 for ruling. On the 20th of October 2015, Vanguard announced that Kanu had been released on bail. However, media sources supporting the objectives of IPOB called the bail controversial and claimed the DSS announced the bail only to calm the angry people of Biafra. Kanu has finally been released on bail by Justice Binta Nyako for health reasons. Kanu disappeared from public view after his home was raided by the Nigerian military in September 2017, an event which led to the deaths of 28 IPOB members. Not being seen in public for over a year, there was wide-ranging speculation regarding his whereabouts, with members of the IPOB accusing the Buhari government of having abducted him. However, in October 2018, unattributed photographs and videos, apparently placing him in Israel, were widely circulated on social media, and this was later confirmed by mainstream media. Despite him resurfacing, his exact location and living place continued to remain unclear over the next years. In an interview in June 2017, Kanu demanded bullets and guns from a group of US-based Nigerians for self-defense against the incessant attacks on Igbos by the Fulani herdsmen which were currently reoccurring in Biafra lands. Kanu's pronounced strategy has been the application of civil disobedience in pressing home his demand for the freedom of his people. In various air broadcasts, Nnamdi Kanu stated how his adoption of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi's forms of civil disobedience will lead to the restoration of Biafra. In an interview granted to Newsweek, Nnamdi Kanu opined his belief in the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi. "I hope that what we are looking for can be accomplished peacefully. I am an advocate of passive resistance. Gandhi and Martin Luther King tried it to very good effects, so why should it not work in our case?" Prior to the 2019 presidential election, IPOB had threatened to boycott the election. According to the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, the boycott, is a multifaceted approach. It is civil disobedience, passive resistance, it is an expression of our resentment of Nigeria and what it represents. His position on election boycotts was widely criticized by local Nigerian politicians who argued to the contrary. On the eve of the election, Nnamdi Kanu lifted the boycott position and urged Biafrans to participate in the election, after which he described as his condition as signed, sealed, and delivered. His shift was received in different quarters as being open to the appeal and opinions of others. In December 2020, Kanu announced that IPOB had organized the Eastern Security Network, ESN, which was supposed to defend southeastern Nigerians from bandits and armed Fulani herders. Kanu later gave all the governors of southeast Nigeria 14 days to ban open grazing, threatening to deploy the ESN to enforce a ban if the authorities did not do so. The Nigerian government regarded the formation of a non-state-sanctioned paramilitary organization as unacceptable and moved to suppress the group. The situation escalated in January 2021 when the Nigerian military was repelled in an attempt to expel the ESN from Orlu, IMO. Before another offensive was launched, Kanu ordered the ESN to withdraw to the bush, temporarily ending the confrontation. The Nigerian Army and Air Force renewed hostilities on February 18 by launching a military offensive against the ESN. The next day, IPOB declared that as of the 18th of February, a state of war had existed between Nigeria and Biafra. IPOB and other Biafran separatist groups consequently began to mobilize and fight the security forces across several southern Nigerian states. Despite this, Kanu maintained that IPOB was interested in a non-violent solution of the conflict and that ESN was supposed to fight bandits, not the Nigerian security forces. Regardless, Nigerian authorities designated IPOB as terrorist organization and claimed that Kanu was inciting violence. On June 27, 2021, Kanu was arrested in Kenya or possibly another location by Interpol and extradited to Nigeria, where he is supposed to face trial. Kanu's brother claimed that he had been arrested by the Kenyan police. Kenyan High Commissioner Wilfred Makaj refuted this claim, stating that Kenyan authorities had not been involved in the arrest and challenged anyone to present evidence proving otherwise. When the BBC attempted to request information from Interpol's office in Abuja, the latter did not answer the calls. Kanu's arrest has sparked anger among Biafran separatists and other Nigerians supportive to his cause. The World Igbo Congress, WIC, declared the arrest illegal abduction and international gangsterism. Following his arrest, questions had been raised over what was termed Kanu's disregard of the Nigerian constitution to abscond bail in 2017. On the occasion of his arraignment in court on 29 June 2021, Kanu told the presiding judge that the Nigerian military forced him to flee the country in 2017. The trial began in October 2021, with Kanu being accused of terrorism, treason, involvement with a banned separatist movement, inciting public violence through radio broadcasts, and defamation of Nigerian authorities through broadcasts. He pleaded non-guilty in all cases. The proceedings were accompanied by protests and general strikes organized by his supporters. On 19 January 2022, Justice Benson Anya of the Abia State High Court ruled that the 2017 arrest of Kanu was unlawful and an infringement on his human rights, and that his abduction and forceful return to Nigeria was illegal under local and international laws. Anya also ruled that the Nigerian government should pay Kanu a sum of N1 billion as a compensation for the violation of his fundamental human rights. Despite this ruling, Kanu remained under arrest and the trial continued, as the other charges were still discussed and prosecutors added further charges. Igmesid Effiong, researcher at a political risk analysis firm, argued that an ultimate conviction of Kanu remained likely, as the political will exists to make an example of a separatist leader who has caused the central government more than its fair share of headaches. The United Nations, UN Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, has indicted both Nigeria and Kenya governments for the arrest and extraordinary rendition, torture and continued detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, without due process. The Council therefore urged Nigerian government to ensure immediate release Kanu unconditionally, and pay him adequate compensations for the arbitrary violation of his fundamental human rights. It also recommended that government officials responsible for the torture meted to the IPOB leader be investigated and punished. The working group further asked that Nigeria to report back within 6 months of the transmission of its opinions on Kanu's matter, steps taken to comply with all the recommendations thereof. It referred the case of Kanu's torture to Special Rapporteur on Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment for further consideration. The UN Working Group also said it will take further action to ensure the recommendations are complied with, noting that both Nigeria and Kenya are signatories to the convention and should comply. The 16-page report dated July 20, 2022 was adopted on April 4 by the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention at its 93rd session, held between March 30 to April 8, 2022. The unedited version of the document cited by Vanguard was marked Opinion Number 25, 2022 concerning Mr. Nwakenyi Nnamdi Kanu, Nigeria and Kenya. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has ruled that the rendition of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, from Kenya was illegal and therefore he should be discharged and acquitted. The court was ruling in the appeal filed by Kanu, challenging the criminal charges against him. In the update on the court ruling provided by Kanu's lawyer, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, he said, "Update Onyendu Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's abduction and extraordinary rendition from Kenya is declared illegal and consequently constitutes a bar to further proceeding the trial." Court held that it was done in clear and egregious violation of extant international laws. There is no justification whatsoever. Even the warrant of arrest issued in Nigeria cannot justify the illegality in the abduction and extraordinary rendition of Onyendu Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The Nigerian government has given reasons for disobeying a court order releasing the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu. A three-man panel of the Court of Appeal earlier in October acquitted and discharged the separatist leader, but the government has refused to obey the court order in typical fashion. A three-man panel of the appeal court judges on October 13 ruled that Kanu's rendition from Kenya by the Nigerian government was illegal. The court asked the government to return Kanu to Kenya and pay him the sum of N$500 million as compensation. However, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari has refused to obey the court ruling. Kanu has been detained by Buhari's regime since his extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria in June 2021. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, said the regime would not release Kanu because of several factors. Malami said the rendition of Kanu could not be used as the only basis to set him free from other charges the Nigerian government preferred against him. According to Malami, the government is holding on to Kanu on account of four major issues which preceded the rendition matter for which the court cleared him.